Hey there, everybody. We are coming to you live. It is 1 o'clock in the morning. We are live in Highland Park. We're actually inside the Homework House. And if you've been watching our coverage throughout the past 20 plus hours or whatever we've been on, you've noticed, you've probably seen the exterior of this place and seen the interior. So the Homework House here is a place where a lot of local kids come and they get really cool classes and tutoring, inspiration. There's a recording studio upstairs. There's a place for food and snacks and really just enrichment programs to help these kids here in Avalon Village spend some quality time and get some special time with tutors and learn new things. They have martial arts classes and things like that. It's quiet in Highland Park. We were just outside just a bit ago. We were talking with some security folks, and they say typically it is quiet on Avalon Street. And so we thought, what are we going to do at 1 o'clock in the morning? We thought maybe we just do like a reporter's diary, kind of taking a look back at what we have seen and experienced in the past time period since we started at 6 a.m., which was yesterday. And I have to say, I've never done a project like this. The photographers and the producers that I've met with today said, you know what, this has been really cool because we've had a chance to tell a story and give it time and let people talk and don't wrap them and ask that second, third, or fourth question that we might not have time for. And what I've learned so far in this community is how resilient it is, how filled with pride it is, how strong, determined, and we keep saying, what's next? And I feel like that's what everyone here says. They're like, okay, automotive might have moved out, or we might be, the school's shut down, or the lights were taken away, but what's next? What else can we do? How do we rebuild? And I really want folks to recognize the spirit and the strength of this community, because it is amazing. Some people called Highland Park the capital of Detroit. It is this little, 3-mile city that is in the middle of the city of Detroit. And a lot of people have forgotten about Highland Park, but you shouldn't, because this city has a lot to say and a lot more to do and grow. A few hours ago, we did a live shot about the lights. And I don't know how close you followed all of these stories, but the light issue is just amazing to me as a reporter. It was back in 2011 that, they lost, I think it was about 1,400 lights. And when I say lost, they were taken away. The city wasn't able to pay that bill to DTE. And I don't think a lot of people who drive through Highland Park recognize that, because the main thoroughfares like Woodward, which is over there, and John R., there's lights right there on the main thoroughfares. But you go in just a little bit on those residential streets and it's dark and it's scary. And for some people, they're concerned it's unsafe. For the elderly, they feel like, hey, once the sun sets, I don't feel like I can go outside. I can't see. I can't get down my porch steps to check the mail. And they want change. And I was talking with some residents who said, you know what, I don't think I should have to deal with this. So we're going to take that issue and we're going to bring it up to some local folks and some lawmakers and see what can we do to help this community. There's a nonprofit like Solidarity who is, I shouldn't say nonprofit, but there is a group of folks who said, listen, we're sick and tired of the lack of lights in this community. What can we do to bring in solar energy? What can other people, companies, people who have money, who are willing to help us do? I mean, it's expensive. A solar light's about $25,000, and they need like 1,000 lights. That's a lot. But then at the same time, can you imagine not having lights in your neighborhood? You want to go to your car, you wake up early to start your job, your kids want to play, and there's no lights. That's a big deal. And that's something that we definitely need to dive into a little bit further and see what's next. There's also celebrations. There are so many things to celebrate. We were calling it the Hamilton Corridor. There is new businesses that are coming. We sat down with Sepia Coffee, and we talked a little bit about the growth there in terms of, bringing new business to Highland Park. And it's exciting. There's places, there's space. We just need the people to take the chance. The residents are hungry. They really want to grow, and they really want to share and help. And I think that's really important to recognize when you're looking at a community. The city has the infrastructure. It's got the bones. It's got the history. I mean, man, Ford built the first assembly plant here in 1913. I mean, this was automotive mecca. You had the Chrysler, headquarters here. You had so much of the who's who of the automotive world that lived in Highland Park. It was called the City of Trees, just gorgeous. And then it left. And then there wasn't much left here for this community. And decades of decay have occurred. The schools have shut down, the businesses have moved out, and a lot of people have left. At one time, there was like 50,000 people who lived here. Now there's about 9,000. So it's really hard to struggle and rebuild if you don't have the tax base. How are you going to bring the schools? How are you going to bring the business? And how are you going to bring people if you don't have that infrastructure? So there's a lot of things that need to be addressed. Coming up at 4 o'clock in the morning. That does sound weird, right? Coming up at 4 o'clock in the morning, we're going to talk with the police chief. He's going to meet us out over on Woodward. We're going to talk a little bit about crime. It's improved, but it's also beating the stereotypes. I think a lot of people think, oh, Highland Park, and they think blight, or they might think crime. And I have to say, sometimes it's because the media reports on those things, and they don't report on the good things, some of the great things that are happening in the community. And that was part of the reason why we did this project. If you know me and you know Local 4, you have known that we have dedicated ourselves for the past 10 years on reporting on Avalon Village, which is this stretch here in this community with Mama Sue Harris, who lost both of her sons and has decided, you know what, that's not going to keep me down. I'm going to use that experience to help rebuild my community, make it a better place for other mothers and other fathers and other children. This homework house is a perfect example of one of the things that she was able to accomplish. But we've highlighted what she's done, and we've really talked about it and celebrated it. And we've talked about it through the eyes of our camera lens and our reporter lens. And then we said, listen, let's expand and let's talk about the city. Let's bring in Michigan Chronicle and talk about all of the stories that they have seen. And it's been a really wonderful, eye-opening day. And it teaches, I think, all of us who's been a part of this project that people, their neighborhoods, their streets, their community, it's worth sharing their story, and it's worth going really small. I say this a lot. When you go small, you go big. And that's what we did today. We went really small. We sat in a backyard by a barbecue, and we talked about chicken Raheem was making. We met up with this other family and sat on some patio furniture and chit-chatted in terms about, their concerns about education. And we woke up this morning at 6:30 with a mother of two and talked about, okay, the historical homes here are so amazing, but what's it like starting a business? And we caught up with that person at her tailor shop. We tried to go small because every person in this community is important. The streets are important. The neighborhoods are important. The city is important. And we hope in some small way we've been able to highlight and celebrate Highland Park. And we hope that this mission of going small and making it big is going to continue in our reporting. We're going to take what we have learned over the past 24 hours. We're going to gather some lawmakers and nonprofits and movers and shakers and folks who want to really be a part of development. We're going to hold a town hall, and we're going to brainstorm and say, what's next? What's next for Highland Park? We have to remember the past, recognize the present, but then what's next? What can we do to help, to encourage? So I ask folks, if you haven't seen some of our stories, we posted them on clickondetroit.com. You can see really hour by hour all the different folks that we've talked to and things we've celebrated and questions we've asked. Check it out. Be encouraged, be curious, be inspired, and stay tuned. We're going to stay here. So far it's a quiet night in Highland Park, and that's good because it's just like any other neighborhood. It's nighttime. It's the middle of the night. But I still think it's important to stay here throughout the whole day. Wake up. We're going to talk with Mama Sue on her porch at 6 a.m. and talk a little bit about what we've learned and what's next. So meantime, I will send it back to our live streaming cameras because they are kind of keeping a monitor in terms of what's going on in this neighborhood. Check out clickondetroit.com. And thank you for tuning in to our, I guess you could call it an experiment. Who's ever done 24 hours in a community talking to the people? But this community is worth it. I think we started this whole thing of going, this community needs to be seen, this community needs to be heard, and we are so proud to be telling their story.